Thank you, Neil. Here's what's happening in the region. The killing of four people, including a disabled man, in separate incidents in Trinidad and Tobago between Saturday night and Sunday morning has taken the country's murder toll for the year so far to 145. For the corresponding period last year, the murder toll stood at 151, the Express reported. In the first incident, a security guard was shot dead, while a disabled man who lived alone was found dead in his home with a single gunshot wound to the head. A 20-year-old man was later found dead in a pile of garbage, while a 44-year-old man was beaten to death, allegedly by a relative. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has said he wants 1 million more people to join his civilian militia by the end of the year. The call to expand the militia, which answers directly to Mr. Maduro, comes as opposition leader Juan Guaido seeks to persuade the Venezuelan military to abandon the president. So far, the military has stayed loyal, the BBC reported. U.S.-backed Mr. Guaido declared himself acting president on January 23rd, saying Mr. Maduro's 2018 election was flawed. According to the BBC, Mr. Maduro's call to increase the militia numbers will be seen as an attempt to shield himself further, both politically and physically. The Police High Command and the Jamaica Police Federation have condemned the murder of District Constable Michael Aldiss, whose body was discovered early Sunday with a gunshot wound to the head. Aldiss was found dead in his car off Windward Road in Kingston, the Observer reported. Police reported that Aldiss, who was assigned to the Kingston Central Police Division, was found slumped over the steering wheel of his Toyota Probox car just after midnight. Internationally, Notre Dame Cathedral went up in flames on Monday in a roaring blaze that devastated the Paris landmark, a searing loss for the city and for France. Flames that began in the early evening burst through the roof of the centuries-old cathedral and engulfed the spire, which collapsed quickly, followed by the entire roof. Reuters reported that a huge plume of smoke wafted across the city and ash fell over a large area. Residents watched on, many of them lost for words. The cathedral, which dates back to the 12th century, features in Victor Hugo's classic novel, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site that attracts millions of tourists every year. One of the first ever Muslim members of the U.S. Congress has said that a tweet by President Donald Trump has led to an increase in threats against her life. Minnesota's Ilhan Omar said the threats were sparked by violent rhetoric, accusing Mr. Trump of stoking right-wing extremism, the BBC reported. It comes after Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, announced a new security assessment to safeguard the lawmaker. The tweet showed Ms. Omar talking to a U.S. Muslim group about the 9/11 attacks. On Monday, Mr. Trump stepped up his attacks against Ms. Omar, calling her out of control. He also said Mrs. Pelosi should look at the anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, and ungrateful U.S. hate statements Omar has made before defending her. Organizers of mass protests in Sudan have told the BBC they want the full dismantling of the deep state left behind by ousted leader Omar al-Bashir. A spokesman said leaders of the past regime should be put on trial. Mr. Bashir was toppled by the army last week after 30 years in power, and a military council has pledged elections in 2 years' time. But protesters remained camped outside the army headquarters in the capital, demanding a civilian administration. Reports on Monday said there had been efforts to disperse the sit-in, but protesters joined hands and troops stepped back from a confrontation. The crowd chanted freedom and revolution and appealed to soldiers to protect them. And that brings us to the end of regional and international headlines. Back to you, Neil.